as you can remember, we have talked about the design as a process, and it starts with a research and analysis, which we are examining the existing situation that we are dealing with, and collecting some information, obviously. After that, after we collected all these data, we need to combine them and interpret them in order to come up with pre-designed decisions, which we can name it. After that, the design process, the design decisions can start based on these pre-designed decisions. In my opinion, this is a nice way of doing things, because at the end, we will be creating an envelope which will have an indoor environment that holds our user groups, and it will be surrounded by an outdoor environment, and they are both affecting each other continuously. So if we do this analysis and then the interpretation and then the decisions, then I believe that we will be able to create a design that is both functional and has certain aesthetical values. The analysis, in the analysis part, there are three major groups: the natural environment, the built environment, and the social environment. I think you remember that. If you haven't watched the video, please watch that first. And we need to do this analysis in the near surrounding of our design area, and we need to collect all the information that in order to understand the essence of the place. And of course, we need to create models, either the actual models or the digital models, so that we can have a base that we can work on. And it is very important, in my opinion, to collect all the data that we collected about this place on this model, either the digital or the actual model, but we need to see them all together so that we can understand what's going on. All the data about the natural environment, the social environment, and the built environment, we can collect them, we can combine them over this model, so that we will be able to see their interrelations. And I advise you to always work on a 3D environment that holds all these data. There isn't a certain list that depends on your approach to the context. So let's imagine that this is your plot area, and we can see, if you create a model like this, we can see everything that can affect the design decisions in this area. Here we see the masses of the built environment, the roads, the transportation, the functions of the surrounding buildings, the greenery, transportation network, connection points, the wind, the sun's position, the north direction, and of course, this is not enough. You can see the pedestrian traffic as well. This is just an example. You can add a lot more things to this base here, and it is important for you to see all the necessary environmental data all together here. And in the next step, we can just create a one slide that shows the actual building of this area, so that we can prove that building isn't a cultural heritage or an important public building, that we can ignore that existing building, but just one point of view will not be enough. So we should give some other perspectives as much as it is necessary, but it is again important for us to see them all together. Also, we should check the municipality webpage to understand the situation here. We should see the function that has been assigned for this area, the total area, how many square meters is that, and also we need the street views here. And if we do all these, then it means that we have been prepared for the design decisions. Otherwise, if we do not have all these information and if we cannot see them all together, it will be very risky to make decisions. We may oversee certain stuff, and if we proceed in this direction, in that direction, then we may end up with wrong decisions, with problems. So after some time, we need to go back and first complete all the missing information so that we can return. So we can say that by collecting all these data on a model like this and combining this data with the properties of the user, that will be our scenario, we can come up with interpretations of these data. And it starts with a concept and goes on with other things. Let's look at them one by one. First of all, the pre-design decisions, which we can call as outcomes or interpretations or anything you want, but they are basically they will create a basis, a solid basis for our next step for the design decisions. And it will be easier for us to continue. And all these decisions, pre-design decisions, all these outcomes will be coming out of our analysis. Let's check them. First, we see the concept, and I think you remember we did this previously. It means the idea. At the beginning, it's normal for us to not have any idea, but in time, as we analyze the context and the content, which is the environment and the user, we can have, with the combination of these, we can have an idea. This needs to be a meaningful idea, and it can help us to create meaningful decisions. The second interpretation can be about the user activities. We can ask this question: the user or user groups, a certain user, a definite user, or a group of people, what kind of activities are they going to do in this building that we are going to design? And it comes from the properties of the user, of course. By looking at the properties of the user, we can create a list of activities. And of course, we write a scenario. It's a made-up story, but in fact, in real life, we can ask our users, or we can analyze them, so we can try to understand their activities, and we need to make a list of user activities. And when I say activities, everything that users will do inside this building, the living spaces that we are going to design. You may say cooking, or doing yoga, or reading, or anything like that. And let's have an example here. This part we also previously examined. You can watch the video. I advise you to watch the video. I am just going to give a small example here. Let's say reading. We need to define it. Reading may have a lot of different forms, and this may change from user to user. When we say reading, what kind of an activity are we talking about? And all these determination can be done by the properties of our user, their biological properties, their behaviors, and their sociological properties. Let's say that our user is an environmentalist person, and they are against, they don't want people to cut the trees. So maybe they are preferring a digital appliance, a digital tool to read. So everything changes here. Or maybe they are using a projector to project certain texts over a wall, and this is how they read. So we need to understand the exact situation depending on our user and the scenario. And once we get this list, we can ask ourselves during these activities, what kind of space or properties our user will need in terms of size, in terms of furniture, and maybe we can talk about lighting properties. You can easily understand if we are talking about a reading activity like this, the lighting should be like that. However, if we are talking about a reading activity with a digital appliance, the whole story changes. Or this requires a dark room, the opposite of the first image. What kind of air temperature or air movement they need, or will the noise will affect them adversely? The privacy needs. We need to detail our list of activities according to these interpretations, and these all came from the properties of our user. It depends, the privacy needs depends their sociological and psychological properties. The lighting requirement depends on their biological and maybe again psychological properties, and so on. Let's say that well, we did our activity list. We created the requirements. This activity, for this activity, we designated that, and this activity needs this much of space, that kind of lighting, that kind of noise environment, or privacy needs. And we did this for every activity in our list. We created that details so that we have the requirements that our user will going to need in that space. We can now move on to create a list of spaces. And that list of spaces will be the spaces, will be the living areas that we are going to design in that design area. We can create a space list. Again, this is an interpretation. This may change from architect to architect. And we can just imagine to group these activities in one space. Let's call it a space A. And maybe we can decide to put another activity in another space, space B, and this goes like this. We need to create the whole list of closed, semi-open, and open spaces in the design area. After that, we can designate every space with the requirements that we already determined so that we will be able to decide their sizes, their form, their lighting properties, noise environment, air ventilation, uh, air temperature, furniture positions and furniture properties. And at the end, we can combine or relate the spaces in this list. For every space of our list, we can say that space A should be at least this size. It should have lots of natural light. It needs a very nice ventilation. It shouldn't have any noise in that area. However, for space C, that doesn't, for space C, the noise isn't important. There can be noise or it can be quiet. There isn't a specification for that. However, it should be dark. It needs lots of clean air, like that. And once we create the list with these details, we can start to relate them together or group them again, like that, like this example here. When the users enter the building, they should be in space B first. And because space B and A are very close to each other, very related to each other, I need to place space A very close to space B so that they can be connected easily. However, I need to place space D far away from space A because they may disturb each other. Things like that. And this may change. When we started the design process, this may change. We are just trying to get familiar with the situation here and we are trying to come up with ideas or try to understand what we are dealing with here. We did the analyses, we interpreted them, we interpreted everything, the concept, we come up with an idea, we determined the user activities, the space list, and all the requirements of these spaces with their relations. Now we can move on to design decisions, the actual design decisions, and we can continue with the other steps. In the design decisions, first we need to make decisions about the mass of the closed spaces, the positions of the open spaces, their forms, their transparency, their textures and other stuff. And here it is very important for us to work in this 3D environment that holds every analyzes here and every pre-decision on it. And now you can see that I have zoomed, but I am still seeing the neighboring buildings, the roads, the sun's position, and everything that I need to see here. And I can ask myself, how can pedestrians and vehicles, users, let's say, this can be the owner of this area, customers, or it can be garbage, or it can be tomatoes if we are designing a restaurant. How can people and other things approach to this area? From which direction? And I can come up with this idea. The owner can approach from this direction. However, clients or students can come from this direction. And how can I give this decision? I need to look at certain data, such as the street properties, the topography, the transportation network system, greenery, views. Also, I need to check the properties related to the users and the scenario. And there are examples or information that are collected about the function at the end of that research. And it goes on like that. And I need to make another decision based on the first one here. Let's ask another question. Where can the buildings, the closed spaces and the open areas be located in this design area, in this plot area? I can say that there can be a closed space, a building here, and another one here. However, I can have an open space, a courtyard, an inner garden located between them. And maybe after deciding that, I can change my my mind and go for a different way. I can have two closed areas that are connected with something, and I can have a courtyard, an inner garden, and a corner garden, something. And how can I make this decision? Again, I need to first remember my previous decision about the approach to the plot. And after that, maybe I need to check the street views. This is very important. And other stuff that I have decided in the pre-design stage, such as the concept. I need to check my concept. I need to look for the topography, the sun, the wind, because I need to check my decision. Let's say that I decided to leave an open area here. However, it takes so much wind. Is it a good decision? Or let's say that there is a very nice view from here. If I place a building, a closed space on this area, it may block the view of the other building. So I may change my decision here. I need to control my decisions according to these information. Another question. Let's say that we decided this zoning here, and now I can ask where the entrances of these closed areas and open areas be, and I need to remember my previous decisions as well. Let's say that one of the entrance should be here, and this can be the back entrance, so that the clients or the owner can use this entrance. However, if I want to take the garbage out, or there are some tomatoes that I need to buy from time to time and put them in a storage, then I can use this back entrance, things like that. And I need to check these decisions and data to come up with a right decision for this question. First of all, my first decision about the approach to the parcel, and then the possible positions of closed and open spaces on the parcel. After that, I can use my concept. I can check for the properties of the topography and all other stuff. Let's say that we did this decision and we decided there should be two entrances located like that. So we can move on to another decision. Let's ask ourselves this question. All the spaces, either closed, semi-open, or open spaces that we created as a list previously, how can they be located here? First, I need to remember my space list. I had 4 spaces, space A, B, C, and D. I can say that for space A, this can be the best location. It needs to be closer to the street. It needs to be closer to the students' approach direction, something like that. And after that, for space B, I need to find the best perfect location in this area. Let's say that I decided space B should be located here. So I can combine them with a corridor or with door, a direct combination relation, and I can move on to space C. Let's say that I decided space C should be located up here because there is a very nice view, and I want the space C, the people in the space C should see that view while they are doing their stuff, their activities. Also, I need air ventilation because of these buildings in front of the plot area. And because they block the wind, I need to go upwards so that space C can get a nice ventilation. And I can connect space A and C with a staircase or an elevator or a ramp or something like that. And I can go like this. Maybe space D can be located over space B, and there can be a direct connection between them. So it goes like that. I am in this step, I am trying to find the perfect place, position, location for every space on my list. And this can be in the ground level, this can be below the ground level, on the basement level, or this can be 1, 2, or 3-story high. It all can be decided according to my previous decisions, my concept, and everything that affects this plot area, such as the wind, the rain, the views, the wind, the sun, and everything. And to work in a 3D environment that holds every analysis on it is important. This is the reason why it is important, why it is necessary. And after that, I can start to create the form, the mass, and the surface properties for my areas, for my buildings and everything. And please do not forget, it is not my job to put the buildings in an area and leave the rest behind. I need to design everything here, including open spaces, including facades, and including roofs and everything about it. And I need to ask myself, how should I design it? How can I decide the masses, the forms, the colors, the textures of the surfaces or their transparency? How can I do that? I can create sketches, and I can work on a 3D environment. I can make models for that, try to give certain shapes, for certain colors, certain openings here. Again, I need to consider all my analyses, all my pre-design decisions, and all my previous decisions here. And here is a very nice trick that I will give you as an advice. Please do not forget, you need to work in a 3D environment. This can be either a digital model, an actual model, or things like that. You need to work in a 3D environment. You need to think in 3D when you are deciding these properties, and you need to see all the important environmental analyses, your pre-design decisions, and your previous decisions. And you can create alternatives. You can search for optimum decisions. You can look for different alternatives. And you can again question your every creation, your every decision, and try to see if there is a better alternative, a better solution for that decision, so that you can proceed, you can find, you can come up with better solutions. Here, you can use some tricks. If you want, you can use a 3D program like SketchUp to create these decisions. As you see in these examples, they are trying to decide the form, the height, the width, the length of the things, the closed spaces, and they are creating alternatives here. First, they started like this, and then they considered the position of the sun rays, so they created another form. They changed the form, and they wanted certain spaces that they placed previously to see certain views, or maybe uh, they are trying to create an effect, a spatial effect, according to their concept. So they can proceed with these progression, with these steps here. And at the end, there will be everything will be decided. There shouldn't be anything left undecided. And when I say everything, I am talking about the sizes, the form, the colors, the texture of every surface, the positions of the spaces, and their connections. Here, you can use any technique. You can do the actual model, work on that, or you can take the photo of an actual model and use that as a basis to make sketches, to create different alternatives. You can use a software such as SketchUp, and you can create diagrams like that. Here we see the progress of this design decisions. And with each diagram, we can understand that the designer, the architect, is trying to create these decisions according to the environmental values, data, or his concept, or how the users will feel in this environment. If you want, you can create animations like this. This will help you to think, to come up with different ideas, to see your decisions in different perspectives, to question your decisions, so that you will be satisfied with your final solution here. You can make actual models. You can try to create forms, give them colors, and make them transparent or non-transparent. You can play with their heights, the sizes, the forms. You can try different things here. And here's a very nice method that I like a lot, and I advise you to do this. Imagine yourself here on the street, and you are looking at the building that you designed at this level. You are approaching step by step, and try to imagine what you are seeing or what you want to see here. Try to make a sketch or a 3D model or a model, an actual model, so that you will be able to see that design in that perspective here. When you stand here and look at this direction, what do you see? Try to imagine that. Try to come up with decisions for the forms, for the texture, for the colors, for the transparency, for the height, width, and every other property of every surface that you see. Here, this surface, this horizontal surface, the circulation, and everything. Try to imagine what you see when you stand at that point, and try to change them. Try to come up with better options here. Here you can play with different objects. As you remember from the basic design course, there are 4 objects that we can use in our design process. We can talk about a point that has no dimensions. If I take a point and multiply it at one direction, then I will have a line which is unidimensional, one-dimensional. If I combine 2 lines or make different combinations. I can create a plane, a surface, or we can say, because it doesn't have to be a planar surface, it can be a curvature surface as well, but we are talking about a surface which is in fact two-dimensional, and if you combine different surfaces, then we can create a volume which has three dimensions. So when we are designing, when we are trying to decide the form, the texture, the transparency and other stuff, we are actually playing with these four objects. Let's think it like this. I'm sure you know this building, it's very famous. When I look at, when I stand at this position and look at this direction, I see this statue, and I can easily say that it is like a point that attracts my attention, and this point stands over a planar surface like this and like this. It is on the corner. So this surface here, it's another planar surface, but it is transparent. And actually this gap here, this opening here, it was left on purpose. It's nearly creating a frame for this point. So if I change the properties of these objects, if I make another surface that isn't transparent, or if I change its sizes, its height, or its texture, the effect will change. So it is now I have to think about what do I need, what do I want, and why do I want it, like that. We can talk about color, a texture, a size, or a frame, a scale for every object. Either it is a point or it is a planar surface. Let's look at this subject over some examples. Let's say that we are talking about a point, and when we say a point, we can either talk about its color, or we can talk about its texture, its form, its dynamism, or if it is dynamic or static, it gives it an effect of dynamic or static, things like that. And it goes the same for everything here. Let's say that we are dealing with a line, and I can talk about its color, its shape, its transparency or non-transparency, again, its movement, or its if it is a static line or a dynamic line. And here, I can, if I change the properties of these objects in my design, I can create different alternatives. Let's look at this example. These are sections, and we can easily understand that there is a courtyard in this building, and there is a very nice tree in the courtyard, which acts like a point. And we can easily say that the architect wanted every closed space, every surface to be inclined towards that point by creating these lines here and these surfaces here. Or when we look at an example like this, a design like this, we can talk about this is a point that is transparent. This is another point that is non-transparent. They are both projecting over the surface, back surface here. And if I change the properties, I will change the design. I will create another alternative. So what do you want? When you stand at that point and look at your creation, what do you want to see? Are you talking about, do you want to talk about lines like this, vertical, horizontal lines, or inclined lines, or maybe curves? It doesn't have to be straight lines, of course. Or what kind of planes do you want to create? And how their relations will be. And of course, they don't have to be planar surfaces. You can go for curvature surfaces as well. And not just about the point, the line, or planes. What about the volumes? What kind of volumes do you want to create? Either closed volumes or an empty volume or a subtraction or an addition. What are you trying to do or projecting certain volumes or rotating them? Things like that. How can you play with these objects? And we talked about the object itself. We talked about one point, either it has a color or it doesn't have a color, it has a dynamism or not. How about we start to combine and compare different things, either 2 points or either a point and the volume or either 2 lines or a point and the line, it doesn't matter. When I start to compare, I will find these adjectives like contrast or similarity or proportion or a balance or a hierarchy. And these will help me to create interesting and meaningful spaces and decisions. At this point, I can play with certain materials to question my decisions, create abstract models or drawings or diagrams in order to understand what I am thinking in a better way, and in order to question if this idea will be suitable for my design approach. What do I want to do? And I can play with different elements here, different lines, different surfaces, different volumes, so that I can come up with ideas. Let's look at some examples. Do I want to create a contrast between the colors, between the textures, or between the transparency of different surfaces? Do I want to create a proportion? Do I want to go for a proportion or the opposite? How can I do this proportion thing? Let's say that this is A. Am I looking for the half of A or the quarter of A? I am again repeating A and the other proportions like that. And is it good? Or maybe I need to create a balance or an imbalance. What do I want? Maybe I can effectuate emphasize certain things in order to create a hierarchy, things like that. And you can multiply these images by imagining that you are walking up to that building that you designed and you're at the door. What kind of an entrance do you want to see? You can create sketches like that, perspective sketches like that. As I told you before, you can use lots of different software if you want. What kind of an entrance you want to create? Again, a closer sketch, a closer decision. What are the properties of these surfaces? Do you want a direction? Do you want, are you looking for a proportion? What kind of colors should you use if you want to create a direction? Things like that. And this is not just about the outer surfaces of the design. You should enter from this door and step inside and try to imagine what you see in the inside. So for each indoor space, this can either be a closed space or an open space or a semi-open space. It doesn't matter. For each space, you need to decide the properties of their surfaces, the indoor space surfaces, and their properties, their forms and sizes and the positions of the furniture. So you need to step inside, imagine yourself in one of the spaces and look and try to see, try to imagine what you want there. Again, by considering everything in your previous steps, you entered the building. What kind of a space are you in? Do you want transparency? Is there a reason for you to want transparency? What about the ceiling surface, the floor surface, and the other surfaces? Do you want lines? At certain direction, what kind of colors you are looking for. And how about the furniture, their positions? This can be just one room, or we can talk about a huge atrium space that connects lots of different areas together, either visually or with other properties. And how are you going to combine these different spaces together, either vertically or horizontally? Are you going to create corridors? Are you going to create or position your spaces so that you will have a different arrangement, either vertical or horizontal? What kind of relations, spatial relations that these areas will have? And here you can do sketches. Again, you can create models, either digital or actual models. You can do these kind of, I forgot the name of it, collage. In Turkish we call it, I don't remember. And with each sketch, you can try different things and try to see if it is a right decision or a wrong decision. What happens if you change the dimensions? What happens if you change the transparency? Or what happens if you just go for a dark color or a bright color or a divided surface like that? And this goes for not just indoor spaces, closed spaces, also the outer spaces that are in your design area or semi-open spaces. Things like that. How are you going to organize them? What about the greenery and the hard surfaces and the soft surfaces? When I say soft surfaces, I mean the earth itself. And the maybe water that you are going to use. And here, it's a very interesting idea to choose certain properties for the greenery. As you can see here, these are the leaves of these trees. And at the autumn time, they leave them all over the soft areas, the earth areas. The garbage man just clean the hard areas, the walking areas, so that you can see different colors like this. The rooftops, how are you going to organize them? The entrances or indoor gardens, what do you want to see? And at this point, it is very important for you to work on a 3D environment. Please do not try to draw any plans or sections at this point. First, create your decisions in a 3D environment. After that, you can, once you come up with certain ideas, certain decisions, after that, you can draw plans and sections and elevations, because they are the 2D images of a 3D object. If you do not have the 3D object with you, if you haven't decided the 3D object itself, how are you going to create its 2D images? It's a very dangerous and very risky thing to start with drawing plans at this point. Here you see a plan. It's a sketch, but we can understand easily. There is this kitchen countertop. There are 3 chairs, a nice, probably couch area with a coffee table, and another table with 4 stairs and the bench probably. And we see that there are glasses and these are walls probably. And all these design was made over a grid surface. The architect tried to create these surfaces by using these squares, by multiplying these squares. It looks very nice, but it is very hard for us to imagine the actual space itself, the 3D space, the 3D building itself. How does it look when you stand at this point and look at this direction? Just by looking at the plan, it is very hard for us to imagine, for you to imagine, for you to design it. And it looks like this. And when you see it, it all changes. There are lots of different things that you cannot recognize or consider when you are dealing with a 2D image. If you are dealing with the 3D environment, the 3D space itself, then you can make up all the decisions as you want. However, it's very hard for us to see it in a 2D image. You need to work on the 3D environment first. After that, you can create, once you are finished with certain decisions, then you can create a 2D image and check your decisions about the sizes of these passages or sizes of these furniture or their positions. But first imagine it here and then check it or back it up with this image. If you have created the 3D building form itself, then at that point you are going to cut it in two. You will elevate the top part and you are going to look down and you will draw what you see. If you didn't create this here, what are you going to draw? What object are you going to cut in? First do this and then do this, and they will both together mean something.